All right, hello everybody. We are top 5 realistic stadium creator changes that we actually want to see for MLB The Show 24. These are just the ones that I feel like shouldn't actually take a lot of time. Of course, we'll start out with the two that I view as unrealistic, even though they're actually at the top of my list. We'll just go through those real fast, just to get them out of the way, because I don't want people thinking that I'm not thinking about them, because they still annoy me. But so those two, the first one is the one that everybody's going to request. It's the bullpens in the outfield. I mean, no stadium in MLB right now has the bullpens down the line like that, except for Oakland, which we all know what's going on there. But yeah, it's not realistic. Nobody does it. Obviously, that's the main thing that I would love to see changed. I think it's just completely unrealistic the way it is. But based on the fact that Stadium Creator between 22 and 23 basically didn't change at all, I don't think we can realistically expect that to change for this year. The bullpens in MLB now line up against the walls, and if you're making walls that you can move around as much as you want, that would be tough to do. So that's my guess, which is also why I don't think it's going to change. Number 2, another one I don't think we're getting, retractable roofs. I think it's a memory limit is my guess. I don't think we're getting them. It would be nice to get some more roof options, but just for retractable roofs in general, I don't think we're going to get them. So yeah, I think it would just be too much in terms of memory for the stadium itself. I think it would be cool to be able to fake it and put stuff over the top of the field. I mean, that would do it. But I have to believe that there's a reason that they're not doing it, whether it's graphically or whatever. But there's some reason they aren't doing it, and that just makes me believe that we're not getting it for 24 either. So we are just throwing those two out there to get them out of the way, because even though they're at the top of my list, we're not getting them, so I would not expect them at all. All right, so going into my actual list, we're gonna do this from bottom to top here. So we'll go 5 to 1. First one, we'll just get it out of the way. Number 5 is just better locations for stadiums. I think we've talked about this for a couple of years now, but just having stadiums that can be in a couple of different locations. I still think we need a waterfront one. I think it's nice that they gave us water to fake it a little bit, but it would be nice to just be able to move this right there, you know? Just to get it a little bit closer, so we don't have to actually use props to make it look like a waterfront. So they don't have to be anything crazy, just, you know, a waterfront one, a riverfront one. Yeah, even this one, I mean, you can do it without the mountains too. So all right, which brings us to number 4 on the list, and that is gonna be just a way to hide the UI. Not necessarily, we don't need like a screenshot mode, but just some way to actually be able to view the stadium without having to highlight everything. So I don't know if that's just the top 4 buttons, you know, that hide everything, but they already do it with night mode. You can scroll around and not highlight anything. So just something like that with the daytime view, and then just hiding the bottom bar and the icons in the top right. Just, we don't need an actual camera mode, just we can take screenshots with the PS5 and stuff. So we don't need anything that intense, just a way to actually hide the UI, so we can look around the stadium without highlighting everything. It just makes it not look as clean. So I think that's a pretty simple request. Moving on to number 3 on my list. Number 3 is actually going to just be better props in general. The big one that I think everybody would agree with is just giving us people as props. Finally, like, There's no way that we should have to create a concourse that doesn't have people interacting and walking around it. I mean, they already have the props for people. I mean, just separate them out and give us, it can be something simple too. Just give us 2 standing, man, woman standing, and then sitting, and just walking. We can do the rest. Just make it random. Maybe a couple different outfits, but they don't even have to be animated. Don't have to be like team specific either. Just a couple of different props and just let us go wild with it. I think everybody would kind of agree with that one. The alternative would just be actually populating the props themselves. So putting people sitting down with that prop when you place it, putting them in the bar, that kind of thing. But there's no reason that we should not have the ability to add people, in my opinion. I don't feel like that should be that tough. I don't know. Maybe they're super attached to the stands and impossible to take out, but I can't imagine that it would be hard to add the models in separately, just so that we can actually place them around the concourse and make it look a lot more lived in. So, I mean, sitting at restaurants, walking, leaning against something, whatever. I can't imagine that would take a lot of time on their end either. I'm sure 95% of the stadium creator community would prefer having animated people over animated animals. I mean, they're cool, I guess, but it's more of a one-off thing that is like cool for one build, but nobody's really adding animated dinosaurs and stuff. I think that's the biggest one in better props, but I mean, there's other things too. I mean, just having glass walls. I mean, glass walls would be cool. Mostly so that you can actually build like a custom hotel or something, residential complex above the stadium, around the stadium, whatever, where you can actually have glass balconies, stuff like that. Same with inside the ballpark too. It would be cool. Just kind of glass walls. I would like glass walls. It would have been cool for this part too, to have actual glass stuff. So I think that would be cool. Just the other one would be mainly in reference to the overhangs, just more overhangs in general, but also just in the simplest version, just taking off the bottom of this. So it's just the metal plate on the top. That would allow us to do a lot more with it too, without worrying about that sticking out underneath. And then this. It would be cool to not have these parts sticking down. So I think just eliminating those from the overhangs, giving a couple more overhang options. I mean, you can see it with the modern. These two. So there's not really much else you can do with it when it's got the giant vertical poles too. But if that was just the metal underneath and the top part, I mean, there's a lot that we could then turn around and do with that, especially in the terms of overhangs and whatnot. But you can't piece them together without a giant pole sticking down. So I think just stuff like that would make a big difference. And the other one would be kind of on that note, but with that prop, they used to have it where it had the lights on the front too. And that was actually one of my favorite things, because that's how some ballparks actually light their field, is with the lights attached to the roof like that. So I know T-Mobile Park does it with their LED lights, and I think bringing those back and actually making it so that they work would be huge, even if it's just faked. Make it look like lights coming out of them, but it doesn't actually have to light anything. It already does the lighting by itself, the little things. Just bringing those back and making them actually function would be pretty cool. All right, number 2 on my list is gonna be a big fix for walls. I think everybody will also have this gripe too, but we'll go into it a little bit more. My biggest gripes, obviously everybody's gonna have the same issues with signs. I don't think it would be too difficult for them to put those in. They already have things overhanging the walls, so you already have like the windows, the doors. You also have the vines and stuff like that. So I don't think it would be hard for them to put in signs. Just take up a couple of panels and put in a sign on it. Have it so you can select a sign. It's not like you need to go crazy, but or even just have them in a couple different locations. I mean, stadiums have like 5 or 6 signs maybe on the whole wall. So, but all of them do have signs. So, I mean, we had signs on our walls going back to Little League. So, I mean, there's no way they should be just flat with no signage. The other big gripe that everybody's gonna have too is just having the wall distances on there. I don't think you need to go crazy with that either. Just put 2 down the lines, 1 in center, and then I mean you can have right center and left center. That's fine. You don't need them like every 10 feet or something like that. I don't think. I mean, it would be cool, but I don't think that's needed. The last one that I don't think people talk about as much, that I think would be huge and make it way more realistic, is having the home run line on the walls. I think every stadium has it. The top foot or so on the wall is just, it's a yellow line to signify that that's the top of the wall. So anything over that is a home run. Anything below is obviously not. I don't think it would be that hard for them to do. At least not programmatically. I think if you look at the walls as they are, I'm kind of go into this a little bit, but they're already dynamic, so you can go up and down with them, which means that they are calculating the mesh based on the height of the wall already. So they should be able to just make the top 6 inches, doesn't matter, just be yellow, and then calculate the mesh from the bottom line instead of the top line. So I can't imagine that it should be that hard. They're already filling in the mesh as it is, so just calculate the top of the mesh 6 inches below it and make that your yellow line. I don't think that it's going to take suddenly a ton of programming work, you know. It's just how MLB stadiums do it right now, and gotta have that come over to the game too. So same thing with I don't know why there's not a line going down. That would also seem like it would be an easy fix. Should be a vertical line for the foul line. So yeah. All right, and my final one, the number 1 ask that I have for Stadium Creator in 2024 is just smaller props. Very specific to a few props, but you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Number 1, it would be nice to have water as a prop, just like grass. As nice it is having the big ones. It would be nice to be able to have access to the smaller ones too, to be able to create like custom fountains and stuff like that inside the ballpark. So I don't think we need all of them, but even just a couple of the square ones, and then just a couple of the vertical walls with flowing water. Right now, if you want to create any sort of water feature, you need to just use like one of these 2 and then just kind of build up around it. Which is cool, I guess, and it works, but it's just not ideal. So it would be kind of cool to just be able to create massive custom fountains with just little water pieces, even that size, you know. So that's the one there. But then when it comes to smaller props, the main thing I'm talking about is actually stands. The way it is right now, it's forcing you to make them pretty unrealistic. So with outfield stands, they're always smaller than the ones behind the plate. They don't go as deep because they want to build up. So that's why behind the plate, it's fine as it is. I have no gripes with the way that the stands are there. But when it comes to the outfield stands aren't going to be like 50 rows deep. They're not gonna be like 40, 50 rows deep, like behind the plate and stuff like that. So you normally want the people to be closer to the field, and then they'll build up if they have to. So normally this would probably cut off like here, and then you would build up beyond that. So we don't have any way to do that. If you want to fake it, you have to use these props and then hide them in some creative way, or you have to use bleacher seats, which it's a major league stadium, so there's not going to be a ton of bleacher seating. These individual type seats with just smaller amounts. So what I would say the easiest fix for it that would be nice to see is just to have a couple of different versions of this. You don't need a ton of versions. Like, as stadium creators, we can figure it out. Just give us smaller ones that snap together. We can do what we want, you know. So I would say just obviously keep this section for behind the plate, but then just make a version that is like 5 rows or 10 rows, something like that. A smaller section so that we can throw that in the outfield and not have to hide all the seats behind it that we don't want to use. It's also tough getting to a different flat level because then you have to hide the actual fans. It doesn't even have to be a lot of them. Just give us that version and then one version that's just 5 or 10 rows, you know, that's all. And when we can work from there. So, I mean, that's only 8, maybe 8 different. If you give us 2 versions, yeah, I mean, you're talking an extra 4 props maybe. And I think that's easily doable, and that's not much of an ask at all. It's just chopping down that version too. You already have a version of it. I don't think it's gonna take a ton of work by the prop team or whoever works on it to actually make that happen. But it would make a world of difference for us as stadium creators. And even better if you don't have the concrete underneath it. Just, I mean, you could do it separately, but you could also just do a section like that with 10 rows, like nothing underneath it. You could put some of that, but I mean, even if you just give us like metal girders as a prop too separately and let us go to work with that. That is my top 5. I think obviously the issue with the foul lines and retractable roofs would be amazing, but I think if we got those top 5 that I listed, I think that would make a lot of the creators happy. It would allow us to do so much more. It's getting tougher to actually just hide stands, especially if you want the real seating versus bleacher seating, which a lot of people are going to the bleacher seating instead because it's a lot easier to work with right now. But there also aren't a lot of ballparks that have bleacher seating, so it's suddenly not realistic to just start putting bleacher seating behind home plate. That's your most expensive seats in the ballpark, is that section right there. So putting bleacher seating there is not realistic in any MLB ballpark. That's my top 5. Let me know if you have any other thoughts. I always like talking about this stuff and comparing different ideas, so feel free to let me know if you have any other ideas.